again, we are experiencing the budget reduction in real time. Even in the year 2012, only 2 years after we received a contribution increase from member countries, our budget portion in real time reduced to 81%. I mean, reduction in 20% in real time. And then in the year 13 this year, it came down to 74.5%. 25% of the real time budget was lost because of the inflation in India. And this is going to be in 69% in next year if we do not receive any increase in revenue. And then distinguished delegate of Egypt and other countries mentioned about collecting arrears. And also we stated all efforts we did in this comprehensive report about collecting arrears. We have been negotiating all countries having arrear. Personally, I visited all the embassies here in this in Delhi, about 10 times each embassies, and then we negotiated. And then some of the negotiation made a fruit, and then we agreed that installment plan was agreed between ALCO and the member countries, and then countries like Iraq started paying for us. And based on our efforts, one country, which is actually Nigeria, paid all arrears last year. And 3 countries started paying arrears, who are the Libya, Iraq, and Yemen. These 3 countries started paying for us arrears. And then a few other countries started paying annual contributions. These include DPRK. DPRK hasn't paid the arrears, but they started paying annual contributions. And also Yemen, Sudan, some portion, and Syria, some portion, they started paying annual contributions. And 2 countries offered its own payments plans. These are the Yemen and Lebanon. They showed us their plan to pay back their arrears. So that these are the efforts which we have been doing. And then we believe that we succeeded collecting substantial amount of arrears. Of course, we continue our efforts, but this is what we have done. And then for your information, I'd like to show some of the figures. For example, the Indian government increased its budget size from 735 billion rupees to 1,764 billion rupees from the year 2004 to 2011. This is the increase of 240% in their budget. And then, as I showed our budget, that the ALCO increased only about 20% in the same period. While the Indian government has increased to 240%, including salary for the staff, we only had 20%. And then other United Nations affiliated organizations in India, they receive increase of contributions from member countries. They have a headquarter agreement. The UN agencies here are the branches, and they have an agreement with headquarters. If CPI increases in India, they receive automatically the increased portion from the headquarters, so that inflation didn't affect their budget structures for other international organizations, mostly. But ALDO is the similar international organization based in Delhi. This is the Asian African Regional Development Organizations. This is the international organization like ALCO. And then ALDO received twice the increase of the contributions from member countries, and then they received some other voluntary contributions from member countries too. So that because of the increased inputs from member countries, ALCO survived the past few years' inflation crisis. So these informations are stated in a comprehensive study once again, and then we discussed all kinds of elements based on this, these figures. for the past 9 months in New Delhi with the liaison officers. We calculate tentatively last December that in 2 years from 2012 to 2014, probably the Indian CPI would increase about 60.64%. This is just a calculation last December. Then, in accordance with the rule of the ALCO, we have to increase the salary to our staff in line with this inflation rate, so that our salary will have to increase anyway by 16.64% to our staff. And then we will try to continue our best to contain the other expenses to mere 10%. While the inflation is going to be 16%, we try to contain other activities to 10%. But still, by this natural increase of human resource expenses and then other expenses, we have to have 14.19% increase. So this is the conclusion which we had at the last December, and this is the figure which we provided to member countries for consultation. Thank you very much. And I would like to draw once again the attention to supplement what the Secretary General said. There have been a request from 3 countries about arrears. Please refer to page 16 of the Secretary General's report for the work of ALCO. Page 16, paragraph 3 states that State of Palestine, Republic of Yemen, and Lebanon officially requested that the arrears be waived or reduced. And their actual requests are reproduced on this paper from the pages 27 to 29. In short, that the State of Palestine requests a full waive from paying contributions, and then Republic of Yemen and Lebanon requested that their arrears be reduced to half. As Secretary General explained earlier, that we need a decision for this point as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think the Deputy Secretary General has very forcefully put up a case for increasing the budget of ALCO. So I'll open the floor once again for comments by member states. Korea, please.
Thank you very much for the comprehensive illustration of what's going on about the budget. But I'm afraid my delegation has to echo what Egyptian delegation and the Japanese delegation said before. First, 14% increase is a hoping figure. This frightens off budgetary officers of my government. Second, in the presentation by the Secretariat, exchange rate is not reflected, so I don't feel really enlightened what's going on about budget. Without reflecting this exchange rate, we are still kept in the dark. Third, 14% increase is not really reflected for all the members in the budgetary increase or membership fee. I'm surprised to hear that Japan's share is as much as 23%. I hope this will not frighten off Japan. This ALCO should remain attractive to the Japanese government. We need Japan as a member here. So I hope the Secretariat would accommodate Japan's fear or concern. Korea has also been asked to increase its contribution by 17%. When I hear Japanese delegation saying that its share is as much as 25%, 23%, I feel I'm not in a position to complain. Nevertheless, if there should be an increase, it should be spread to all the member states. And the last thing, two-digit increase would not be acceptable to my colleagues at Capital. So if it is really inevitable, I hope the Secretary would come up with some idea of spreading it in 2 or 3 stages. Then it may be more acceptable to my colleagues at Capital. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Korea. Is there anybody else who wants to take the floor? Malaysia, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Malaysia commends the Deputy Secretary General for his presentation of the budget request for our consideration. Malaysia, I wish to reiterate again the statement of the head of the delegation of Malaysia this morning during the deliberation of paper OC 1, the reports of the SecGen, when he mentioned in detail relating to the request for the increase in the annual contribution from member states for the year 2014 onwards. The fact remains we assist of the issues that has been further elaborated by the Deputy Secretary General just few moments ago, and we truly appreciate the issues raised by him. But at least within the context of the quantum, Madam President, I wish to reiterate the position taken and explained by the head of the Malaysian delegation that even if the request for the increase were to be approved during this session, Malaysia would not be in a position to commit payment until we receive clearance from our Treasury and our Parliament, particularly not for 2014, because we already had our 2014 budget discussed and to be approved in the forthcoming October session of Parliament. Secondly, Madam President, Malaysia notes the proposal of the ELCO Secretariat to introduce a pension scheme for the local staff. We noted that if this proposal is implemented, it is expected that an estimated expenditure of $20,000 per annum would be required for the year 2014 and subsequently. As the quantum represents a substantive increase in the total sum requested for 2014 expenditure, Malaysia sees the need for this proposal to also be included as part of the study that had been requested to be done by the Secretariat by our head of delegation this morning. And this is where we hear clearly when the Deputy SecGen spoke about the need for the report. We do realize that the substantive portion of the request had already been distributed to member states back in December. We read that earlier, but within the context of this request, we think that we need to elaborate further, and because we think that there can be alternatives that could be provided within the context of the report. Thirdly, Malaysia noted that in the SecGen's earlier report, OC 1, he stated his effort, the effort that is needed to strengthen the human resources at the ELCO Secretariat. This, among others, is to be done by the proposal to recruit at least two new legal staff members at the Secretariat. And definitely this proposal will result in the increment of the annual operating expenditure of the Secretariat. Although Malaysia appreciates the fact that ELCO Secretariat needs to increase its professional manpower, and we do understand that this had already been mandated at the Abuja session, the additional financial burden to the organization to implement this proposal need to be carefully considered. As such, Malaysia is of the view that alternative measures alternative and creative measures